Canadian AF, Canadian as fuck. Right here on Revolution Radio Canada. This is a pokey little podcast that we do live Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we talk to the best of the best that this beautiful country of ours has to offer. And tonight we've got the best, believe me. So we're going to get right into this because we're super, super stoked to have iskwē with us tonight. This is just going to be awesome. So, Dimitri, take it away, my friend.
Canadian as fuck would like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we are on today. And while we meet tonight on a virtual platform, we would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands we call home. And we do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations, to improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and cultures, and to try to move forward in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration.
Thank you, my friend. Greatly appreciate that, as always, doing that for us every week. Derek apparently just exited a dance club there. I don't know what happened to his camera, but he is back, and there he is. We are just incredibly honored to enter this interview, this wonderful Cree-Métis artist. I'm at a loss for words. I'm honored and privileged, actually, iskwē, to say that I'm actually Ojibwe Métis.
Oh, cool.
So, yes. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. So I just wanted to just put that out there real quick.
Woohoo!
So yeah, there's a million things that we want to talk to you about. So Dimitri, get it going.
Well, I think we first of all have to begin by congratulating iskwē on this marvelous new album that she has put out called Nina. I've been listening to it all week. And now, is it fair to say, like a lot of people have been calling it your most personal album yet? And does that seem fair to say?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So the word Nina is the Cree translation for the word me. So this record is just like, it's a story of my love life, my, sentiment over the last couple of years.
Did you have any?
So yes, it's rather personal.
Did you have any trepidation about investing so much of your personal life into this project?
Parts of it, actually. Funny enough, the hardest song for me to allow myself to write was "I Get High." And it started off as a joke on, behind the scenes in my team or with my team, where my prior manager was like, "You need to write a weed song, man. Like, you smoke a lot of weed." Am I allowed to say that on this show?
100%.
You are.
Okay, you smoke a lot of weed, so you really should just do a song about that. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. The messages that I've talked about in my career to date have been very much down a different path. And so I just didn't know if it would be something that, for lack of better words, would be allowed and by anybody other than just me. Like, I was just the only one getting in my own way for it. So that was the hardest one. And then ironically enough, the song's actually, it's a play on words. It's not really just a stoner song. Like it still has a message in there anyway.
Yeah. And that still talks about and that song still deals with your heartbreak and everything. So
yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry, just really quickly, just the way you said that when you were like, you got to write a weed song, and you're like, oh, I don't know. It's just the way you said that. It was perfect. It was like almost like you were high. Like, I don't know, man.
I don't know, man.
Dude, I don't know.
I watched a lot of Cheech and Chong when I was
going to say, it worked for them.
They have a whole film career out of it.
Right? Exactly.
Basketball Jones is a great song.
Yeah.
Mexican Americans is a great song.
Which?
Mexican Americans like tacos and burritos. And girls named Maria.
Derek.
Stop it. I
know. Sorry, Dimitri. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry.
I Get High is a collaboration with Nina Hagen, and I just have to know how that happened.
Yeah. So, okay, we already started the song story where, my prior manager was like, you should write a weed song. And I was like, and I just kept putting it off. And then we were in the studio. So it was Damian Taylor who produced the album and myself.
Amazing.
And and we had been in the studio for a month and a half, maybe by this point. And it was the last song that we wrote for the record.
Really?
And and he was like, look, why don't we give it a shot? Like, let's take a stab at doing a weed song. And I was like, okay, fine. So we were sitting there and he was like, well, what, like when you were younger, what was some of the music that you would listen to that when you would just like smoke and relax, what would do it? And I'm like, I remember being in high school and the first song that I would share with friends was Cosmic Shiva by Nina Hagen.
Oh,
and
nice.
He wasn't familiar. So I played him the song and it was like watching The Matrix because it was, he listened to the tune and it went boop, 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 and it just computed. And then I have it on video too. And then he just stood up and walked over to the computer and sat down and like fucked around on the keys for a bit, like built up the sample. And I swear within maybe 45 minutes, we had the like almost the full song. Like we did the whole thing top to bottom in like maybe 2 hours. Yeah.
Wow.
So all this to say is I'm now super stoked with the song. I'm happy with the message. I feel good about it. And I go home and we need to get sample clearance. So I go home and I'm sitting with my dad and he's the one that introduced me to Nina Hagen. I promise the story answers your question eventually. And
we love it all.
The journey
want
is
it
the
all.
best
This
part.
is great.
Right.
We're just stringing along. It's fine.
So my dad is the one who introduced me to Nina Hagen when I was a kid. And so I play him the record and he's like, this is fantastic, but she's anti-drug. And I was like, uh-oh. I didn't know that. You don't say. So as a part of requesting the sample clearance, I decided to write her a letter and just say like, this is who I am. This is my name. This is what the song is. This is what it's called. However, this is what the song's actually about. And this is the backstory and so on. And wrote her the letter, my team sent it off and or my manager sent it off. And maybe, I don't know, a few hours later, we had a response and she was like 2 thumbs up, loved it, signed off on the record. So I never met her, but I wrote her a letter.
That's so cool.
You've done.
Sorry, if I could really quickly, Dimitri
yeah.
here. I think, so you said Cosmic Shiva, right?
Cosmic Shiva.
Yeah, so I think that's from Nun Sex...
Monk Rock.
Monk Rock, that's right. Great record.
Yeah.
And just some little pop trivia for everybody out there. Another great Canadian just happened to do all of the synthesizers on that album, Mr. Paul Schaefer.
No way.
Really?
Paul Schaefer did all the synth work on that record.
Cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
He's been everywhere.
Right on.
Right?
Dimitri didn't know that.
I didn't know
There
that.
you go. From time to time, I come out with the odd nugget, but Dimitri comes out with like 25 nuggets every show. So anyway,
Very true.
Yeah,
Tomato.
that's right. Exactly.
Now, all right. So Derek brought up Mexico. This album, what was the entire album produced in Mexico City?
It was, yeah.
And
We were at Panorama Studios in La Condesa in Mexico City.
now, did you or Damien, how did you choose Mexico City? Was it you? Was it Damien?
Well, I went down. I have another story. So
We already said we want it all. So
About a half hour. So,
surprise.
yeah,
In case you were worried if I could ever, talk my way through something. Now you know.
all good, excellent.
So it's the pandemic. I had just moved to a new city. I didn't know anybody. We had this crazy lockdown curfew where we weren't allowed to leave the house from 8 p.m. until 5 a.m. for 5 months in the middle of the winter twice.
Wow.
Yeah.
And, so it was very isolating because I just gotten divorced in a new city, don't know anybody, in this lockdown, then a curfew, and it's dark at 4 p.m., like all the things, right? In addition to it being a pandemic and all of the different bits and pieces that came with that for everyone. And so an old sort of fling and I reconnected online, because that's what you did during the pandemic. And this is somebody who this is somebody who I had met in Argentina like 7 years earlier while I was traveling. And he was working at this hotel that I was staying at and was a musicologist and an activist. And so we connected on a friendship level. And at the very end of my stay, it was the very last night, we had a lovely kiss, nothing more, nothing less. And then said we would keep in touch, right? And that we would one day find each, like we'd meet at the halfway mark in Mexico. So like I said, pandemic happens. I'm divorced. He's divorced. We've gotten married in between and kept in kind of touch, but not really during those 7 years. And decided once the first travel ban was lifted, because he was in Argentina and he had a very similar travel ban schedule as Canada did, we bought tickets and went to Mexico City. And so we were there for a few weeks. And I came back to Canada to get my dog and to get some new clothes or fresh clothes, and was set to go record 2 songs with Damien at his studio in Los Angeles. But we hadn't met. And so we were, I just come back from Mexico City and we were having a chat on Zoom. And I was just like, he's like, what have you been up to? And I'm like, well, let me tell you. And I was telling him about how I had walked into this market, and even through my face mask, the smell of the fruit was like nothing I'd ever experienced before. And I stood there in this market after having been locked up for, however long, and for a year. And I just started crying, standing there in this market, right? And I was just like, I felt silly, but at the same time, I was like, nah, man, just soak this up. And so that's what the whole time felt like while I was there. It was just, the salt water in the air felt different than it had in the past. And the smell of the fruit smelled different than it ever had. And, everything was just alive again, And so I came back and I was sharing all of these stories about this adventure that I'd been on and all of the, beautiful things that had come from it. And he was like, well, I want what you have. Like, I've been locked up in my place for all this time. I don't, I don't want to do these songs here. Let's go back to Mexico City. And I'm like, don't mess with me. Because I was planning to go back when we were done in Los Angeles. I was going to head back to Mexico anyway. So he's like, yeah, why don't we go do these songs there? And he happened to have somebody that he knew, I guess. And we got connected to the studio. And then from that, it was just an incredible chain of events that led us to meet a batch of incredible musicians. Our sound engineer, Felipe Castro, was just outstanding. He's now a lifelong friend. Like, the musicians on the record all became lifelong friends. And some of them are, the majority of the people are Grammy nominees, Latin Grammy winners. Like, it was just this wonderful connection to community, to music, to art, and friends forever.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
Do you think that the fact that it was in Mexico where you worked on this and everything, did that affect the way that you wrote the songs? Did that affect did that leak into the sound of the
Yeah, but I mean, it was in half of the stories, right? So half of the record was written there. So it was, from my experiences with this love affair that I had that was wonderful but turbulent and then over, so there was a lot to pull from that. But then also things like, not just in the narrative, but also in the sonics. So we used a lot of like live sound recordings. So at the end of Waiting for the Laughter, there's a frog that was in the courtyard of the studio that we were recording at. And so we captured the sound of this frog and Damien sampled it into the record, or the church bells from the neighborhood, or, like all kinds of things like that. So it feels to me like, even though a couple of the songs I wrote before we went there, the majority of it was done there. And even the songs that I wrote beforehand, still, they were all touched by Mexico and the time that we were there. And so for me, it's a very kind of jumping back to why the album's called Nina. All of it feels very much like the, that direct space behind your eyes when you go in, you close them and you think of a moment, you can smell it again, you can see it again, you can feel it again.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
That is the deepest thing I've ever heard.
That's
Right on, man.
Clearly, I got to smoke more weed. Or some, because I don't.
I was, you know what I was actually going to say, straight up honest. I think your voice is like gold. Like just your speaking, aside from obviously we all know about your singing voice, but your speaking voice, you have a fabulous voice. You should read books.
Oh,
Seriously.
I would do that actually.
I would
Right?
buy.
I don't know how to
every
get into
camera
that,
recording
though.
of that.
It's kind
you
of
are-
it's a look. I have a friend who's done it for Amazon. It's kind of a slog, honestly, Craig. You know,
Yeah.
so but anyway,
Power to the ones who do it.
Okay.
yeah. But anyway, I'm just saying, you know,
no, that's
you might like it, iskwē. But
I do like to read.
Well, there you go. I think you,
You know,
should
I
read
read a
books
lot of
aloud, and
now
people will love it. No,
I
I
do-
have
I do-
audiobooks. That's how I go to sleep.
I do have a question about Damien.
Yes.
Damien Taylor, who
Damien.
produced Nina.
Yes.
He was born in Canada, but he's really a citizen of the world at this point.
Sure is.
So, but anyway, he's worked on some amazing projects like that. Just thinking of Astra, Diamond Rings, Bjork, Arcade Fire,
The Killers.
The Killers. It's like
Prodigy.
yes. So like
Yeah.
so tell us about working with him. What was your vibe with him like?
Damien and I were like immediate kindred friends. It was very special, actually. And one of the things that I loved the most, I can't even say that. There's so many things that I loved the most. But one of the things that I really loved about working with him was that our process every day was we would get to the studio. He would get there a couple of hours earlier than I would to go and smooth out some of the stuff that we had done the night before. And then I would show up around noon. I would bring us, some juice and postres, and we would talk for like 4 hours. And we would listen to music, and he would ask me questions, and he really got to know me. And I really opened up and shared very personal stories, right? And it was through that the creation came afterwards, So the thing that was so lovely is that he took the time to get to know me as a human being as we are writing this record that are going to be, personal sonnets, right? So it felt like it made me feel really comfortable to go into the space of being able to write these songs with him, because I felt that the stories were being honored and respected and cared for and encouraged, and like all of those bits. So it made for a really unique experience in the studio for me.
I think that's that's really, engineers, producers, that's really their job, is to put the artist completely at ease.
And without the feeling, because in the past I've definitely felt where people were more interested in leaving their mark on the record as opposed to, hearing what I was envisioning and making that the sound.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think great producers, if the product is good, their mark is left, right? You know what I mean? So it's, as far as I'm concerned, maybe not try so hard, and maybe do, what our friend has done, and just do your thing, and good things are going to happen,
I named him the Wizard while we were there, though, because just watching him do stuff and then listening to it afterwards, so A Little Piece is the first song on the record. Yes. And I wrote that song and demoed that song at my old house in Hamilton, right at that's not true, at the Banff Center for the Arts a few years earlier. And then brought it to him, and was like, I need you to make this what I can hear it in my head, what it needs to be. I can't get it there. Right. Mm-hmm. And what he did with it, when you listen to it and all of the little intricacies, intricate sounds that take place and where he places them in the mix. And, it's just like a genius. And watching him as he's working on these things was also wild. Just like a type of brain that I couldn't even imagine what goes on the inside.
Yeah.
In the most incredible way.
So I have to ask you, if I could, I always love to ask about influences. So for you being Cree-Métis and growing up in that, in that environment, I'm sure you're probably like your influences are probably quite varied. I mean, obviously we know about Nina Hagen already, but who else is out there that you?
Well, my dad was actually my biggest musical influence, and he's my family, but he's not my biology. He's my adopted dad. And he started making me mixtapes when I was like 4 years old, right?
What a yes.
Yeah. But
I love them already.
Young
Bless
parents, like they were, I'm 4 or 5 years old and we're tenting on a beach in Jamaica for a month.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to all the mixtapes on the Walkman that my dad made me.
Wow.
And it was like Nina Hagen. There were, of course, Talking Heads, David Bowie. Like the soundscape was quite broad. And then he would throw in like Hank Williams Sr. And then he would throw in Mahalia Jackson. And then, so it was literally, like, I grew up knowing who Skinny Puppy was because of him. And I grew up knowing who, all kinds of greats were because of him. And so for me, music, like the more eclectic my catalog was that I listened to, the more interested in it he was. If I listened to things that were more mainstream, easy to access, he loves a good catchy song, but that's not where his heart rests, right? So yeah, like the music in our home was very, very eccentric and all over the place and covers lots of ground.
Yeah. And as far as the Indigenous side of things goes, were there influences for you?
Not as a kid in music.
Right.
Yeah. No, like we didn't, I didn't start going to, as an example, I didn't start going to powwows or anything like that until I was in my early teens.
Okay.
So when I was younger, we didn't have that in our household. The music part.
Right. Okay.
That came later. I mean, exactly. Like I started going to powwows when I was maybe like 15 or 16, I think.
Right.
And that's when musical elements became more, yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, because we spoke to Dimitri.
Asanabi?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we spoke with him and, talking with him too about all of these things. It was really interesting for him. We talked to him about Buffy St. Marie and that whole situation and everything. And he was even saying too, he was like, I started doing these things when I started speaking to my grandfather and all of these songs started coming out of that. Growing up, I listened to Led Zeppelin, it's amazing. Cause could possibly be ignorant or what have you. But it's just for me, I've never been to, like that sort of side of things. I've never been really on a reservation, unfortunately, before. And you can only imagine like sort of the influences that you would have musically speaking, artistically speaking. So it's really interesting to hear how, these things essentially end up coming about for Indigenous artists. I
grew up in Winnipeg.
Right.
And,
right.
What?
Right.
Now,
so I grew up listening to all kinds of stuff because all kinds of stuff was around.
Did you listen to Wide Mouth Mason? Wide Mouth Mason?
I didn't. I know who they are, but they weren't in my 5-disc changer.
Oh, okay. All right. I think it sounds to me like your dad was a lot of sort of like early CF&Y kind of stuff, like Edge type stuff, like Skinny Puppy and Simple Minds and Talking Heads and all that sort of
totally
stuff. Right?
Lots of Led Zeppelin, of course, lots of Rolling Stones, lots of Prince, lots of
yes, nice.
Yeah.
Perfect. Done. Yeah. Excellent. You're awesome.
Did you go? Did you? Did you how was it trying to participate in the Winnipeg scene?
For music,
Yes.
I left actually right when I was beginning to make music, and I
Yeah.
went to Toronto. So I wasn't in the Winnipeg music scene. Like I wasn't immersed in it. I would participate in it when I would come to town, but I
Yeah.
wasn't immersed in it. Yeah.
Okay.
So I left. I left Winnipeg when I was 23. Oh my God,
Okay.
20 years ago.
Okay.
Shh. It's okay.
Now going back to Nina, we have that The Other Side, the song The Other Side. And what did you have? So that's very sexual.
Yes.
Was that anything that was that a new territory for you for songwriting?
Yes. For songwriting, yes.
Yeah.
So I wrote that one as a poem on the plane. So I was sitting on an airplane one day and I wrote it out. No music set to it whatsoever, not even thinking it would be a song.
A la
And
Leonard
then-
Cohen.
Yeah, right. Just deep and brooding on the plane by myself.
Yeah.
And yeah, it wasn't until, how did that one turn into music? I don't even remember. But that was one that I wrote like a little piece. That's the other tune on the record, or one of the other tunes on the record that I did and then brought to him. So we used a lot of my samples and stuff a lot of my samples and stuff. But I don't remember how it became a song, actually, now that you ask about it. Like, I remember writing it, the written part on the plane, and I remember creating the music, but I don't remember how they found each other.
Okay.
But it was my first time, being that type of intimate in a song.
Okay. And again, like no trepidation going there?
Like, not really. Like, every now and then when I hear the song, I'm like, ooh, there's that song. But no, like it's more, I don't know. There wasn't a filter when I was doing the record. I didn't feel concerned about that. It wasn't until after it was done that I'm like, okay, so now I'm going to have conversations about these things because I wrote them,
Yeah.
But beforehand, it wasn't on my mind at all.
Yeah.
So it just was like, and just came out.
But the amazing thing about Nina, I think, is that it feels like this was such an important journey for you to go through based on what was going on in your life. And the thing is,
Absolutely.
there is a character arc throughout this album. And when we play Exhale, like in a few minutes, this is it feels like such a triumphant ending to the album, and like so anthemic. So like kudos to you and like just the sound, just the hugeness of Exhale at the end. But I do have to ask, you do have so far a live date scheduled on June 21st at Base 31 in Prince Edward County. Are we going to have more? Are we going to have more tour dates filled in as time goes on?
Because we would love to see you is what we're asking.
Yes.
Basically, right? Yeah. You're right.
Yeah. The short answer is yes. We're not. So we have, a few dates coming in this year that we'll be announcing this year, but it's not a full tour.
Okay.
Just yet. Okay. Yeah. The plan at the moment is that because I just did a tour in Canada in November, December, so we're going to have to hold off a little bit before I tour the country.
Gotcha.
But we will, just not right now.
Gotcha.
And
sorry.
Do you have any? Is there any fair expectations that we can have for that live show on June 21st?
This one's actually it's going to be. It'll be the album, but it's going to be a different version of it. So it's going to be a very lovely acoustic version. So we do it with a piano and a cajon. So it's not like big electronic-y anything. This one is like a nice intimate show, storytelling. I get to talk about the record a little bit more. I get to talk about the songs and
Back to the good old days of the Much Interactives.
exactly.
Yeah.
In the round.
Yeah,
Love it.
So if I could really quickly, just wanted to ask you, for you, would you almost consider Nina to be a concept record?
I mean, it could be.
Yeah.
I haven't thought of it as such, but I also haven't. Yeah. I don't know how to answer that.
I think you know what I think you
tell
should
me.
do. I
me.
think you should say that it's a concept record, write a book about it, and then narrate said book on the internet so that we can buy
Set
it.
to the
because-
soundtrack
exactly
of the
right?
album.
There you go.
I like the cut of your jib, Craig.
I love it. This is awesome. Okay, so yeah, I mean, boys, I think we've got to get to this incredible piece of music and this incredible video. So the
I'm
interesting
so
thing,
looking forward to, I'm sorry, I'm going to talk all over you, Craig.
You've been very
you
quiet.
do all the time,
I have
Derek,
been.
so it's okay.
You know what?
That's
I
good.
would, iskwē. Honestly, I literally just had that in my head. It's like I've been very, very quiet today.
Okay, no judgment.
One, I'm just honestly, I'm just enjoying listening to your stories and like how your music came about and all that. And like I've been really looking forward to today. Because I know there was some like back and forth about the interview and stuff, but when like I was unsure whether or not we had it today, and I was like, oh, what are we going to do? And then Craig told me that we did have it, and I was like, awesome. And I'm like so looking forward to this video because we don't normally play videos a lot, but I'm like I haven't watched it yet. At all. Like I've left it and I'm just been like doing other stuff and I've just been like waiting patiently today for this point in time.
Spoiler alert, it's awesome. Just so you're aware. There you go.
Great.
It was shot on an iPhone 15 Pro.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I edited it myself.
Dimitri
Well
actually
done.
pointed out something very interesting, that the whole video is that kind of, what is it, portrait mode on an iPhone?
Yeah, it's configured for it.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome.
Is the 15 the latest?
It is.
Yeah,
Okay.
15's the latest.
This
Yeah.
guy. Look at
Okay.
that camera.
Nice.
Whoa.
I got the size of those
look,
things.
look
I
at
have the 14. I've got the 14.
okay, not the
You know,
14.
you know who else did that? You know who else filmed their entire well, I know a lot of people have. But Rob Dickinson from Catherine Wheel, when he let out his album Fresh Wine for Horses, he did I think it was 2 or 3 videos with just like I think it was a Samsung, pretty sure.
Derek, didn't you record the Scary Loud on an iPhone?
No.
I thought you did. I thought something to do with Scotty Comer that you guys did on an iPhone or an iPad or something like that.
No.
Okay.
But before we ask about Exhale, and don't let this steer the answer to the question, Ten Gun Ninja 75 has a question for iskwē. What's your favorite song on the album?
If I'm totally honest, I think it's Caught in the Waves.
Okay.
Yeah. And part of the reason is, you know, the story behind the song means a lot to me. But also, we did a live off the floor studio version that we haven't released yet. And so there's a little surprise for the folks who are listening.
Awesome.
And it was so beautiful, and it sounds so beautiful, and we have it on video, and so we're going to release that in a little bit too. And so it not only has such a nice sentiment for me in terms of the person that I'm talking about and the memories and the moments and the dialogue that was happening between us and so on, but then it also is, one of these songs that brings me back to Mexico City in a heartbeat. And I can smell and I can see and I can feel and hear and all of the things. And it's, it brings me back to Mexico City, but it also actually brings me back to the beach, because that song was written about this moment in time in Puerto Escondido.
Thank
I
you.
could listen
so
to you
much.
talk all freaking day.
All
no
day.
joke.
All
No
day.
joke.
Well, once I narrate my first book, you'll be the first one to read
That's
it.
right. Just shoot it off to us, please. We
Great.
would appreciate it. Actually, can I ask you for a huge favor? Because you do have a
Yes.
great voice. Would I be able to ask you to be able to say, hey, it's iskwē and you're listening to Revolution Radio Canada? Could you do that for me?
Absolutely, right now.
Yeah.
Hey, it's iskwē, and you're listening to Revolution Radio Canada. No, what was it?
I love that it's a question.
I'm so putting that as a bumper on the radio station. Revolution Radio Canada? Yes,
not
it's
sure
Revolution
where I
Radio
am.
Canada. That was amazing.
Are you happy with that take, iskwē?
It was great.
Oh my goodness, this has been unbelievably amazing. We just want you to know, we are going to actually just let you know too, iskwē, that if in case you're interested, episode 100 of this podcast is coming up in the next few months. So maybe we could reach out and get you to say, hey, congrats on 100. I don't know. Well,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yes.
honestly, that would be wicked. So,
I
yeah,
wanna have-
if you no, Derek, stop, hold the thought. If you can, iskwē, if you could just say, hey, it's iskwē on Revolution Radio Canada.
But are you saying revolutionary?
Revolution Radio
Revolution
Canada.
Radio Canada.
Yeah, so it's the R's that are behind me. That's the Revolution Radio.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, this is iskwē, and you're listening to Revolution Radio Canada.
Perfect. Go ahead, Derek. Sorry. Derek's getting.
Did I get it this time?
That was
Yes.
Oh, no, it's
I don't know
great.
why those are so hard. For those of you who are listening, it's a hard thing to do.
I get it.
There's
I get
5
it.
words in that sentence, but yet for some reason you focus on them so much that you're just like, did I even say them?
The great Julie
that's
Black
why-
actually did one for us, and she did it
Ah.
4 times, and she was like, "Did I say it right? I don't think so." And then went back and did it again, and then did
It's
it
hard.
And she's like, "No, I think revolution."
I
She
can do
actually
that
asked the
better.
7. She asked the same question. Are you revolutionary? I'm like, no, just revolution. She's like,
It's
okay.
the way you're saying it's I think just hearing Revolution Radio just goes into your brain as revolutionary radio.
I see.
or something.
Okay, gotcha. Alrighty. Sorry, Derek.
What I was gonna say is that we could have everybody just kind of drop in for like a half a second and say, "Hey," on
For
the
the
100th
100th
episode.
For the 100th episode.
there
And
it
the
is.
other thing I was going to say is, yes, it is very difficult to say when I'm doing bumpers. It makes me absolutely crazy. Which is why usually at Edge, they had them do it off air so that they could do 9 of them in a row.
Thanks,
Right.
Derek.
Yeah, that's
No, that's me giving, I'm just taking the piss out of Greg.
he's taking the piss out of me. Yeah, I probably should have asked you to do that before we went to air, but anyway.
Which is what I
it was
usually do.
perfect.
I'm
Rolling with
usually
it.
a
It's
reverend.
fine.
Yeah, and what I'm going to actually do, it's going to be perfect. So this is going to be great. It's going to be, hey, this is iskwē, and you're listening to Revolution Radio Canada. And then I'm going to come on and say, listen live at revolutionradio.live. And then you're going to come back on and go, hi, this is iskwē, and you're listening to Revolution Radio Canada? Oh, that's so going to be the bumper. I can't wait. All right, perfect.
I can't wait to hear it. I want to hear it too.
Yeah, thank you. We'll send it off to you for sure. Thank you so.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, iskwē, for the torturous work you did on the bumper. And
It's perfect.
That's funny.
and thank you for this journey that you took your listeners through on this album. Something we got
Echo.
reverb happening.
Greg, stop it.
We have some reverb
Oh,
happening.
my apologies. Now we don't anymore.
Some reverb.
Is it gone?
Yeah.
It's still here.
No. Why do we all sound like aliens?
We don't sound like
Or like we're underwater.
Okay. Is it? Oh!
Go ahead, Dimitri.
Sell it.
All right.
Do it.
So now we have a bit of a delay. It's still here. But anyway.
Unbelievable.
So
And Chicago has the ball.
I guess I'll just try to muddle through this.
Go ahead. Take
Right.
one of your ears off, Dimitri. You'll be able to hear yourself. There you go. There you go. Perfect.
So no. So thank you, iskwē, for hanging out with us and answering all our questions. And for the people out there, Nina is an absolutely fantastic album. I'm gonna just make an early prediction. It's gonna end up being one of the best albums of 2024, bar none.
Is it slated for the Polaris Prize?
You've been a Polaris Prize long listy before.
I have, yeah.
So anyway, she might even make the short list.
Dimitri's favorite thing is the Polaris Prize.
It's a great way to find new artists. Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a bit about? We're gonna play the album closer of Nina, Exhale, and why don't you tell us a little bit about this song?
So this song was written as a conversation to myself, and it was a reminder that I didn't need to take on every fight as though it was as though I needed to, or as though it was mine, or as though, I could take a step back and breathe and say, it's okay to have a little space. It's okay to care for yourself. It's okay to find that moment to, cater to this part, to heal the wounds and do what's needed to take care of your own heart.
Awesome.
And so that's the song. It's me talking to myself in the mirror, reminding myself of that, which is why the video is shot the way it is. And
did you self-choreograph this? Did you choreograph this video?
I co-choreographed it with a dear friend of mine named Stephanie Fromentin. And she's a beautiful choreographer in Montreal. We met also during the pandemic doing a different choreography piece for a song called Night Danger that was for Pride. And I loved working with her. And so we went into the studio, and it was meant to be, again, like a conversation. And so we worked together, but it worked together before we shot to just sort of find some moods and find some little bits. But really the what you see in the video was just movement. It wasn't choreographed from start to finish.
And I feel I have to point out before we play the song that your name translates to Blue Sky Woman.
This is it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, iskwē. It was a wonderful conversation. Wonderful speaking with you. So, Craig, is it queued up?
Ready to go.
Before we go into reverb, this is iskwē with Exhale on Revolution Radio, Canadian as fuck.
Doesn't matter if you're right.
That is freaking awesome, man. Holy shit. Like, what a song. Holy gripes.
Iskwē stuck around throughout the song. So,
oh, look who was next. Beach is the t-shirt.
Yeah.
Like that. Holy jumping.
Yeah.
What a beautiful.
That was so good. That was so good.
We were,
piece of music.
for people of the internet, we had a private chat, the four of us, during the airing of that video. And, well, it was like Derek had a lot of, well, because Derek's a photographer, he had a lot of like interesting insights into the video and like the stuff that Iskwē was typing back. Like Derek, like what kind of things were you pointing out?
The double exposure. So it's a if I may,
Please.
okay. So Iskwē mentioned that it was done. It was 2 continuous takes, which just got layered over top of each other, but they're not the same take. It's not like you and you said this at the beginning. It's not like a fully choreographed movement. It's just movement. It's just something like
It was reaction. It was emotion.
Reaction, yeah, as the music took you, you went, right? So the doubling of that, it made it geeking out in my head right now. It made it really interesting because it was almost like it was a trail, but it was like what the hell is that? Have you ever seen the movie Sliding Doors?
I have not.
Oh, I haven't. Or maybe I did. Yeah.
So it's like, so there's it basically the entire movie centers around her living 2 different lives.
Yeah.
In the same, but on the same timeline.
Yeah.
It's weird, and that's kind of how I felt watching this because you've got one motion, and neither of them are primary. Mm-hmm. Right, like they're both very translucent with each other, but like it's you could see there was one movement where you brought your arms down and it was like synced like perfectly. There was like a nice little drum hit and you hit your thigh, and it was very impactful visually. But then the other visual of the double exposed image of you over like in with that is you like making a completely different movement. And it's absolutely breathtaking. So well done. It's super great job. It's super great.
Thank you. Yeah, it was really wonderful to make. You know, like I said, the movement was we played around beforehand, but you know, neither of those takes, and they were 2 separate one takes. So from start to finish, we didn't stop the camera each time. And I enjoyed seeing some of the moments where it was like some of the movement, even the way because it was Stephanie who filmed it. Mm-hmm. So even the way where she, like we treated her as a bit of a part of the dance, right? Like we would kind of move around together. Yeah. But to see that, because the idea was for it to be that conversation, you know, like that sort of, you know, mirrored, you know, because I'm having the song is me talking to myself in the mirror. So I'm like having this conversation while looking at myself in the face. Yeah. And so the piece was meant to have that sentiment in there as well, where it's like I'm moving with myself to go through, you know, and there's moments where it's like, it's, you know, it's stuck and then release. And, you know, for me in what's going on in my head is to show that conflict that I feel when it's, you know, I want to participate in something and I don't need to, I want to defend and I don't need to, or I want to, you know, like these sorts of feelings. And I'm like, just take a breath.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's really interesting. The analogy as well is like, if you're talking to yourself in the mirror, but like looking at this video, it's literally, you're doing 2 completely different things, which speaks to like a mental aspect of like watching yourself do something, and then like you're questioning or saying like, you don't have to do that, you don't need to do that, but yet you're watching
old patterns or old habits, right? You know, and going like, do you really need to repeat this one? Has this lesson been learned?
Yeah, the breakup album has been around as long as recorded music has been around, right? But the thing is, the special thing about Nina, and like we obviously have some like classic breakup albums in rock history, like Blood on the Tracks, Here My Dear, Adele's 21, you know. But the thing I really like about Nina is the journey to rediscovery that you take, and that's fully realized by the time you get to Exhale. And like, so it's just a beautiful, gorgeous way to end this journey. So yeah, I just have to, I again have to give you all the kudos. All the kudos. So, and thank you so much for hanging out with us.
And for sticking around after the video.
Yeah.
Avec plaisir.
That's awesome.
I don't know what she said.
I said, right on, man.
that was French for Derek. You're terrible.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
No, okay. So you know what? We the best way, as far as I'm concerned, to take is to do a double shot here of our new bestie iskwē.
Let's do that.
So we're taking from Nina to say thank you again so much. We really appreciate you. This is with Nina Hagen. It is I Get High.
This is so good.
And this is fucking awesome.
You're in for
so enjoy it.
Thank you, Nina. Thank you, iskwē.
Thank you, iskwē.
Right. Thank you as well, Nina. Right.
And Cosmic Shiva, because she's the baby sample.
Yeah.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. So
Family
once
affair.
again, thank you so much for your time. We
thanks.
sincerely appreciate it. And we'll see you on the 100th.
Enjoy.
Right here, episode 88 with our new bestie iskwē. This is Canadian as Fuck on Revolution Radio.